Hello, everyone, and welcome to Magma Ragers episode 22. I'm joined as always by Pandemonia, and we have just come back from a really exciting weekend at Rush and the Kwese Fireside. So, how did you find Rush? How did you find Rush, Pandemonia? I almost called you Penguin there.
It was awesome. It's the first of its kind. It's event. It's definitely the biggest we've had in the country. Uh, Prize support was really good. So, we had attendance was good. The vibe. If people have seen the picture, if you're going to share the pictures, you'll be able
Yeah.
to see the set, and how amazing it looked. And just the whole atmosphere was really great.
Yeah, so firstly, let's just talk a little bit about the event as a whole. Rush was like I'd say it's like an early mini Rage, right? But
Yeah,
more specifically focused on esports. Like there wasn't as many exhibitors, there wasn't as many shops and whatnot. It was basically just like lots of esports going on, right? We had the CS:GO, the LoL stuff that was going on, League of Legends, the FIFA stuff that was going on, and then there was obviously some like exhibition stuff like
just
the VR and those kind of things.
PUBG, and there
Oh
was
yeah, there
some
was a PUBG
PS4.
one.
There was some, so it
Yeah.
was, yeah, it's like a mini, like you could say, a mini rage. I think the CS:GO was the ESWC, so it was like pretty big. The LoL was also something for a big tournament,
Yeah.
so it was all quite competitive events.
Yeah. And your team won the CS:GO Energy, which will obviously make
Yeah,
you happy.
yay!
Yay. So yeah, onto the actual Hearthstone side of it. So the Hearthstone, there was the Kwese Fireside Gathering, organized by Kwese and sort of set up to show off the ESL African Championship finals. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the actual format and how the Fireside Gathering itself went down?
So the FIFA, which quite an interesting format is, they basically had Friday, Saturday, Sunday, three events, and each event was a Swiss, and the Swiss cut down to a top four, and then the top four basically played like a double elimination, and then you had the first and
Well,
second
single elimination.
of each day. Yeah, single elimination. The first and second of each day basically made it to a playoff, and then those six players played for a laptop. So we had the first, second, and third of each day winning money, which was really nice. And then those top two of each day also then went into like a small playoff to win a really nice gaming laptop.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was a really good, cool event. The tavern was very packed. We had a really great set for it. You can see it a bit here. The with the fireside gathering, that like big wall. It was really kitted out. Definitely the best of the like uh, aesthetics for any sort of fireside gathering we've had in South Africa. We didn't have any internet issues that I noticed either. So, those things are obviously really great because that's something that can plague these kind of events if you're not ready for the number of people you're getting. And we had lots of people there over the 3 days, which is one of the
It
nice
was
things because it was
a lot
like,
of fun.
yeah, because it was like three totally separate days. You could come on whichever day suited you, kind of thing. You didn't like if you came on the Saturday and then didn't qualify for the Sunday, you couldn't play, let's say on the Sunday. Like if you couldn't play on the Saturday, like myself, because I was casting, then you could at least play on the Sunday as well, right? Which is
Yeah.
a
So
really nice part of it.
it was cool. There was a lot of like also giveaways. There was the quiz. There was there's like photo competition. It was also really cool. The vibe is they had cosplayers there.
Yeah.
Like World of Warcraft Hearthstone characters. So it was also the atmosphere was really great. It's unlike anything we've had here before. So I'm really hoping that we have more of it in the future.
Yeah. And there was also yeah, so moving on to the actual like tournament itself. On the first day we had Selfmoord and who came second on the first day?
Apex came
Was it
first,
Apex?
Southwood came second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Selfmoord came second and Apex came first. And then on the second day it was yourself that came first. And who came second on the
and
second day? Vivid came second
Vivid
on the
came
second
second.
day.
Yeah,
Okay. And then on the third
and
day it was Gas and Vishrugged. Gas coming first and Vishrug coming second. And then, so those were the six players that then played in that Swiss event for the laptop. It was the 3 round Swiss. Basically, you had to go 3-0 in that Swiss event to win, and it that came down to a final between Gas and Apex. Both would have been really good, deserving players. Both traveled relatively far for the event, and Apex
Yes.
managed to take home the laptop, which is really great for him, having traveled all the way from Cape Town. He was kind of like unsure as to
Yeah.
whether it was going to be worth traveling, and it's because it's always
Well, a
risky.
laptop.
It's always risky traveling as a player like this, right? And there's a big like
Yeah.
that's why that's also nice that the prize pool was split over those 3 days and split relatively
Yeah.
evenly. So if you came second on a day, you covered your costs and made it probably a little bit of profit depending. So
Yeah, it was really good for guys who traveled as well.
yeah,
Like instead of just one big event, it was three small events,
yeah, there
and
was
I mean
more
it was
opportunities
great.
to actually earn money, cover costs, and then of course there was the major prize of the laptop, which he managed to win. So really
Yeah.
well done to him. He puts in a lot of hours playing Hearthstone, especially on ladder. Well, that's pretty much the only way you can put in that many hours if you're not playing like tournaments. Anyway, so yeah, he puts in a lot of hours playing ladder, so definitely a deserving player. Um, and then what else do we want to? Oh, and then the other thing that happened obviously at the event was the ESL African Championship finals. Sorry, the playoff finals. So we had that long double round robin season with the 8 players, and then we cut to 4 for the uh, double elimination bracket at the finals that was being broadcast from the event. And in the end, we had well at the event we had the well not at the event but the players that were playing off were the 3 Algerian players, Expert Summer, Exia, and Saliom, versus Scythe, pretty much the lone South African that managed to
South
make it through.
Africa.
So in the double elimination bracket, we had Scythe versus Saliom in the in the winners bracket final, and then Scythe had to drop down to the lowest bracket final where he ended up playing Expert Summer, who he'd played in the very first round, and Expert Summer managed to get revenge on him there, making it through the grand final to leave it as an all Algerian final, and then Expert
Yeah.
Summer had to overcome winners bracket Salyom's winners bracket advantage, meaning he had to win 2 series with let's say his Paladin deck that could have struggled against Salyom's lineup, and he managed to
Oh,
win both those series. So Expert Summer was able to take it home, and hopefully we can maybe get him on the podcast sometime to discuss the the event and the ESL and whatnot. But I've spoken to him a lot through BattleNet, and he's definitely a deserving player. He seems to be one of the Algerian players I'd say that's taking it the most seriously. He does some like casting, I believe, as well for the North African league that they run there.
that's
Uh,
pretty cool.
yeah, and he's also coached a lot of these other Algerian players. And we kind of heard that from Exia when we had him on the podcast a while ago.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's very well deserved. I think he's a very deserving winner and taking home like $2,200, which is a lot in almost every African currency.
Yeah. It's a big chunk of money.
Yeah. The one thing that was also really cool about the event was actually like we had our casting desk, as you can see here, set up like right uh, in front of the fireside. So all the casting, you got that awesome backdrop in the back with all the players playing. So like you can and the cosplayers as well were in the back. So we had Penguin and myself that were casting, and you can also see Pandemonia over on the side here, concentrating on that Saturday when he managed to make the top 2. Well, to actually win the Saturday event.
Yeah.
So
So quite fortunate.
yeah,
Like sometimes you need to play well as how Robert like Fran has played a bit.
yeah, yeah.
That happens.
Yeah, I won't talk about how poorly I played over the event. But anyway, yeah, so the ESL stuff was really great. And if you want to take part in ESL for the future seasons and get your chance to win this uh, pretty sizable prize pool, then there's some qualifiers coming up this weekend on Saturday and Sunday at 4 o'clock South African Standard Time. So this is only for African residents. So you have to be a resident of an African country in order to
Whoa,
qualify.
no.
And then you can
African resident of
yeah, well, you know what I mean.
Sorry.
I was just being explicit. Okay,
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
so the qualifiers are coming up. You can sign up on the ESL website. I'll put some links in the description and in the on the YouTube video. And yeah, I'm sure you're going to be taking part, hoping to do better this time round than last time.
I really do hope so.
Yeah. Well,
But,
now you've got the confidence, right, from winning one of the days at
yeah,
Rush.
definitely good.
Yeah. Okay, so that's all we have for Rush and the Kwese event. On to other news affecting a more sort of a wider audience, I'd say. One of the big bugs that was sort of confirmed this week was the pity timer bug. So basically a bug where you're supposed to get a pity timer that improves your drop rate for like legendaries after not opening them in consecutive packs. You know, it sort of scales. The more packs you open without a legendary, the more likely you're going to get a legendary in the next pack you open. So there's a bug. Basically, they identified a bug with this, which they're going to resolve, and apparently they're going to contact the people that were affected. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to do
Assuming,
that,
yeah,
but
give him a free I mean, I'm assuming they could probably just add the legend, a random legend to that person's collection.
yeah, they
Uh,
could. Maybe they just give them like 20 packs or something. I don't know what they'll do.
yeah,
It does seem, I don't know how they're going to fix that, but it's digital, so they can do whatever they want. That's the one of the
exactly.
beauties for them when it comes to fixing things like this. So if you have been buying lots of packs recently and been affected by opening very few legendaries, then maybe you'll be lucky and score in this uh, resolution for however they're going to resolve it.
Yeah, I know some people even were saying, they actually got lots of pack. They actually still got quite a few legendaries even with this. But so I'm curious as to
Hmm.
are Blizzard going to kind of refund it on a case by case, or blanket whoever bought packs give them extra legendary kind of thing.
Yeah, it should probably be like they can find the people that didn't open a legendary in like 30 packs and be like, okay,
That
here's a
seems like a lot of
legendary.
admin, right? Would it not just be easier to
Well,
go
I
like,
mean, look, they have a fat database for users that probably have their records of what they opened and whatnot as well. Like, I'm pretty sure most of this is stored and you can just run some queries over it to find exactly who it was affected. It's not like they're gonna have to eyeball it. Like,
yeah,
you
there's
know,
probably some way of filtering it.
uh, they're pretty smart at Blizzard for such an indie company.
What? Such a small indie company. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm sure they can figure it out. It's pretty much just some like DB queries from my understanding as a developer, but I have no idea how they actually store all this information. If they didn't store it, then there could be a problem. But
Well, you'd hope they stored information, right?
yeah, no, but I mean about like let's say what people opened in packs kind of thing.
Right.
So if they didn't store that, like if they didn't
Like, yeah, you
store people's pack histories, then that could be more of an issue. But anyway, I'm sure they'll figure out some way to resolve it. And some people will that were previously disappointed will be getting something back.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then some of the other news, I'd say relatively minor news really, is that Frozen and Chucky have both left Luminosity Gaming. It's probably, especially based on the timing, them both leaving together, it's probably just that their contracts ended, right?
Yeah.
As somebody that is a sponsored player, you would know that these contracts usually do have a finite period on them, and then there's usually a renewal, and maybe they've got
And they'll
better
decide
offers
to do
waiting
it
for
or
them,
not.
or Frozen in particular has already qualified for the World Championships, so I can't imagine Luminosity would want to drop him because of
Because
performance,
he's
even
bad.
though yeah, even though recently his performances are not very good, although he did go 6-3 at DreamHack, so it's not too bad. So yeah, curious to see where they're gonna go. I think we're gonna have to wait in the next few weeks to really see exactly what this
Or whether they
means.
might do what other players have done and form, like their own team, right?
Maybe.
What's it? What's it? Hoy and them and Surrender and 6-0, they formed Planet Odd. Hey, wasn't it?
No,
They formed like,
Planet Odd is an MGO that picked them up.
oh,
They just always
okay.
go everywhere together.
Right.
Like Planet
I
Odd
thought
is a
they
is
kind
a
of.
real no, Planet Odd is like a big MGO.
You see how much I know about MGS.
You just know the South African ones, which is all you really have to know.
Oh, no. Yeah.
I just know them from watching Dota as well. Like their team
Okay.
was also, I don't know if they managed to qualify in the Americas, but they were like in the final of qualifying through for TI from the Americas. Anyway, that's very off topic. Um, but getting a bit more on topic, we are going into reveal season now for
Woo.
Knights of the Frozen Throne. So today is the day that the card reveals start again, and I imagine some more are going to pour in tonight after we stop this podcast because of the American time zones and whatnot. But so far we've only got one card to review yet. So we're going to just give a brief look at this card. It's called Ticking Abomination. It's a 4 mana 5/6, and it has Death Rattle, deal 5 damage to your minions. So, what's your first impression on this, Panamonia?
This is there's two main like potential decks that this could go into. Slow control decks where the whole idea is this is your only, your own, your
Sorry,
or it's to go.
sorry, you were breaking up a bit
Hello,
there.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, but
So I
your
say
Skype seems to be lagging a fair bit.
you can either go like the route of control, like I think it's like a slow control deck where the whole idea is that that's your only one and only minions early on.
Yeah.
Or the other approach is you go for sort of a value-based deck with like aggressive death rattle, and you go for the approach of you cram it full of like what's a devil saw eggs. You run what's it like death rattle, like what's it, the eggs that draw cards. You can try
Runic
and
egg, yeah.
try and get synergy. Try and
But the,
get synergy from death rattles with value.
Yeah, the thing is with those kind of things, you always have to play them as you're sort of trading your abomination away. And the tricky part of that is because of the abomination stat line for its mana cost, if you're playing it on curve, it's going to need to eat up 2 or 3 minions before it gets traded away, or your opponent's going to use a spell to deal with it. So I kind of agree with you. I think I see it more in those kind of control decks where, let's say it's kind of like a Zombie Chow or an Emerald Hive Queen, although we never really saw Emerald Hive Queen get used to the same extent. It's like it makes your minions worse because in this case it's gonna kill them when it dies, which is more often than not a net negative. But it can also make things better for you because it's just such so overstated for its cost.
Yeah, I mean, a 4 mana, obviously it's not a 4 mana 7/7, but, 4 mana 5/6 with, I mean, when the downside is only clearing minions, that's your only minion, it's not that sad about that, right?
Yeah.
You know.
What about like an aggressive mage deck where you can finish them with burn and you can fill the board after the abomination dies, right? Like, is
Uh,
abomination that horrible in a very aggressive deck, or as let's say the curve topper in a like hyper aggressive deck,
the problem, though, is that,
hyper hunt
the
aggressive
fact that it
hunter?
clears your board is, can be problematic.
Yeah,
Like,
sure,
if
but
you're an aggressive mage playing Mana Worm Arcanologist, and then you're playing a 4-drop that basically your opponent just has to kill it and gets free. It's basically its AoE. So Fireball becomes, Flame Strike.
sure. I mean I understand that. The mage thing is more because they have ways to finish like reach, right? From hand reach, which is
Like
pretty
an all
important.
in. Okay, I see what you're saying. Like, so you go all in, like with minions, and then later you bash them a few times with the 5/6, and then you just go Fireball, Frostbolt, kind of, you know.
Yeah, well, I think probably it's just better in Hunter if we're talking about that kind of style anyway, because sometimes you can have some favorable death rattles, like kindly grandmothers and those kind of things. Even like if, you know, yeah, I mean, this is probably going to die before Highmane comes down anyway. So, it's not the worst, and it can be very aggressive there. Like you don't have to
It
run
also,
the extensive beast synergy with stuff. I don't know. I'm just trying to like I think maybe thinking it's only for control decks is probably a little bit of a slim application, but I think ultimately it's going to depend. Like if there's lots of good death
yeah,
rattles that you want to activate on your own board, then maybe this makes this better. But it does really have that problem of your more often than not your opponents are going to choose when they're activating it. So if
yeah,
you have a runic egg, or well, actually more importantly, if you have a devil saw egg on the board, they can kill the devil saw egg first and then kill the abomination. Then the abomination ends up cleaning up the 5/5 dinosaur as well. And that's not really how
yeah,
you want it to be. So to get the favorable death rattles off this, you really need to be trading this into something. Like play your death rattle, trade this into something.
yeah. It makes it a bit awkward to set up. I mean, like you say, especially like Devil's Egg, they can just kill the egg first. So yeah, and it also, I mean, it also obviously also depends on what they print, like what other death rattles,
Yes,
what other
yes.
death rattle synergy there are. I mean, that obviously I think will play quite a significant role.
Yeah, but it
Uh,
is quite an interesting look at Death Rattle. You know, traditionally some of the most overpowered Death Rattles we've seen are just Death Rattle upsides. Like those are, Pile Illustrator, it's pretty much purely a Death Rattle upside, except when it's Doomsayer. Um, Mad Scientist is purely a Death Rattle upside. Like Haunted Creeper, they were, a lot of the early Death Rattles, like we saw in Naxxramas in particular, were Death Rattle
Zombie
upsides, and
Chow.
they were, let's say, understated. Yeah, okay, Zombie Chow. Zombie Chow was the opposite, right? But Zombie Chow was
Yeah.
one of the few ones like that. The majority were, let's say, Death Rattle upsides, and they were maybe understated for their costs. You're talking Sludge Belchers as well as that. So this kind of suits a similar flavor to Abomination, the which also has kind of a death rattle downside, except that that's symmetrical. Whereas here you get even bigger stat buff and you get the symmetrical downs or the non-symmetrical downside. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So, but it's a question of, I mean, 5 damage. Can you how much how possibly can you unless there's an effect that turns or your damage into positive damage kind of things, like
Yeah,
unless there's
like
some weird
minions
way of,
you damage your minions deal damage to your opponent kind of thing. Like
yeah,
Axe
exactly.
Flinger, but different.
Yeah, some weird interactions, right?
Maybe. Okay, I'm not actually sure how this would work. If you gave this card Lifesteal and it did 5 damage to all your minions, would you heal
I
for all
don't
the
know.
damage it
I
dealt
think
like
so.
that?
Like that's possible as well. That's the thing.
Because if that's possible, then all of a sudden this card becomes a great target for any possible lifesteal buffs, which is obviously one of the new mechanics where for damage dealt, you gain that much health. So
It's like a Helizael vibe.
yeah, like maybe it's has some synergy there in some kind of control deck as well. But
Yeah,
then
it's
you actually have to have
possible.
stuff on the board, right? And at
Yeah,
the
I mean,
same
you
turn
never
you do
know.
it. But if there's other death rattles you want to sack into it, sack like let's say another death rattle. Let's say we had like a death rattle heal bot, right? Like 5 mana 2/2 that healed you for 8 or something. You could trade this off with the lifesteal on, and you'd be healing for uh 13. It's not great. It's maybe not that great. I don't know. It's quite a like pie in the sky scenario that this is gonna heal you for a lot, I suppose, with lifesteal, because you have to have a big board, and then you don't really want this death rattle to go off. So, yeah, it's just an interesting interaction. I'm actually interested about, right? As to
Yeah,
whether lifesteal works with this kind of thing.
I mean, you can obviously wait for guys like Toast to try and break it, right?
Yeah. Okay, so that's the one new card we have so far. We're gonna expect a lot more this week, and we'll try. Once we reach, let's say, a critical mass of cards, we'll probably try bring just a card review episode, and we'll be doing well, at least I'll be doing the normal full set reviews when we have, let's say, all the cards in a class. We'll go through the class and maybe some decks you can build with the class and all that kind of stuff. So there's going to be a lot more content coming up soon. So, early plug for hitting that like and subscribe button, the follow, all of that, so you can find out exactly all the content that is going to be coming up.
Yeah,
So,
it's gonna be coming fast and thick now,
yeah.
so it's gonna be quite exciting.
Yeah, and speaking of fast and thick, we've had lots of esports over the last few weeks as well, and in particular, quite a few DreamHacks over the last month and a half. And this is sort of I think the last one for a while now. DreamHacks, we over this last weekend we had DreamHack Atlanta. So do you want to just give us a bit of a rundown as to the main talking points from this DreamHack and the results?
So DreamHack's obviously one of the bigger like LAN events. A bunch of people, massive open brackets. And what was obviously really quite impressive about this particular one was the fact that like the lots of North American players, but also lots of players from what's it like well-known players did really well in this one. So like
Yeah,
at the Valencia, we saw a lot of relatively newer faces, shall
yeah,
we say? Whereas like this one, you know, if you follow the competitive scene and you go down the list of top 16, there's going to be a few you recognize. I mean, you start at the top, Amnesiac. Amnesiac's quite a well-known player.
yeah.
Chucky's well-known. Dr. Jikiniki became well-known because he made he made the spring prelims. No, the
No,
spring
No,
playoff.
no, no, the
The spring
winter
championships.
championships. Winter.
Yeah, yeah, the winter championships.
Yeah.
Um, then you see players like Impact, who are very well known in the Canadian scene. Just saying is one of the Tempo Storm's players. Nyman, Noblord, So quite a
Chucky.
stacked top 16. I said Chucky, I think,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously, as you can, like, if you look at the go to the website, it's mainly Americans
Hmm.
because this one was in America. It looks like not as many players traveled, or those who did travel didn't do as well. I mean, if I look at the list, there's one Canadian, then there's Nyman, and then there's one French in terms of like
Yeah, I mean Europe has
not.
just had in relatively quick succession two DreamHack events, so it's not too surprising if a lot of the European players wouldn't necessarily have traveled for this event.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean end we had the top four being Nyman. Uh, who was who was the other semi-finalist that lost? I've forgotten.
So Slim.
Oh, was it Super Slim or So Slim? Oh, so Slim.
So
Anyway,
Slim.
Nyman so Slim, and then in the finals it was Noblord and Dr. Jinkininki, and Dr. Jinkininki managed to take the win there. So, adding more to his sort of growing Hearthstone CV, if you want to put it like that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's always amusing the classes. All they can talk about really is about how sort of charismatic he is and how fun a guy he is, and like never
Yeah,
mind the fact that he actually won. It's like, yeah, he's such a nice character. He's such a bubbly guy. He's such a fun guy to be around. And then, oh, by
yeah,
the way, he's actually he can play Hearthstone too. So
yeah. He was definitely at the Winter Championships, I'd say one of the biggest surprises. Kind of, you weren't really sure a player like him, whether, like a new player coming on the scene is that great. But he really did impress everyone, not just with like his results, but actually how he played as well. And then obviously everyone seemed to obviously always talk about how nice a player he is, which is always a big benefit as well.
we have nice guys in the community.
Yeah. Yeah, so that brings sort of the end to a run of DreamHacks that we've had and a bit an end to today's episode. There's gonna be, as we said, lots more content coming through soon with the Knights of the Frozen Throne news and card reveals that are gonna be coming up. So hit that like, subscribe, follow, and you can find us on Twitter as well to find out any when any kind of content's coming out, as well as maybe you can tweet at us when there's a new card and ask us our opinions straight away if you can't even wait for the videos. So you can find Pandemonia at Dale Pon and myself at dib_gaming. And we'll put all the links to the ESL VODs as well in the chat if you want to watch them. Sorry, not in the chat, in the uh, description. They were pretty interesting games. I think all the players could have improved quite a bit, but yeah, overall it was really interesting and it was a great event. Big shout out to all the organizers, to Pixel Senpai and Nate, or Burning Red, and um, Miles, Bad Robot, and also Penguin, obviously, and co-caster. All the people at Kwese, they really did a great job with the organization there, and of course as well, Lara for all her work for organizing the fireside and the admins as well. They were all there. So, big shout
yeah,
out to everyone there, and hopefully we'll have
we
a
just
lot
hope
more
for
of
me
those
more.
events. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so that's all we have for tonight. Cheerio.
Cheers.